It's time for NuWho Review with your host, Farrar Hutkins, and guests, Louis Nauman and Alex Cannon. Welcome back. I am Farrar. I am here with our regular cohorts, Louis.
Hi there.
And Alex.
Hey.
And we are talking about The Caretaker, Series 8, Episode 6 of NuWho, written by Stephen Moffat and Gareth Roberts. And by the way, Gareth Roberts is a comedy and soap writer and also a novelist. He contributed some of the missing adventures and new adventures in the Doctor Who novel series for Virgin over the years. No stranger to Doctor Who. Directed by Paul Murphy, who also directed the other light episode that we've had so far this season, Robot of Sherwood. And I think it really shows in this episode that we've got really experienced writers and directors. I found very few faults with this episode. It was very enjoyable right from the start. I enjoyed the pacing of it, which for me is rare because I often think that Doctor Who is a little too fast cut. But I thought this one flowed very well. And the only real disappointment I had was that since I knew this episode was going to be at the Coal Hill School, I was kind of hoping for a cameo by Ian Chesterton.
Yeah, and I've seen a promotional picture, showing Ian Chesterton is the headmaster of the school.
Yeah, I figured maybe he'd just be checking in at somebody's office, just passing by, and I thought it'd be nice to see him. But yeah. Maybe he did make a cameo and I just missed it.
I wonder if it's going to happen before the end of the season. I'm pretty sure they're going to make something of it.
I really hope that it happens before he's too ill to participate. He's almost 90 years old now.
Well, you know, he did a really good turn in the 50th anniversary as the security guard.
Yeah.
So,
and since they managed to miss Nicholas Courtney, I hope that they managed to write I hope they managed to write William Russell in before it's too late.
I have a good feeling about it.
Fingers crossed. Gareth Roberts, by the way, wrote this story, The Lodger, Closing Time, The Unicorn and the Wasp, and The Shakespeare Code. And quite frankly, I think this is his best episode yet.
I don't know, I like Shakespeare. I like that one.
The Shakespeare Code was pretty good. The ending, I thought, was...
weak.
A little weak.
A special effect ending.
Deus ex machina.
Yeah.
But comparing this with his other efforts, I think we have to compare him to other writers whose... As they get more and more into writing for Doctor Who, the more episodes they write, the better they get.
Well, it'd be really fun to find out.
I look forward to his next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would like to know, when they have Stephen Moffat paired up with another writer, are they dividing the labor by scenes or are they going behind each other on the script?
I wonder that too. I mean, does Gareth Roberts come out with this story taking place at the school and then Stephen Moffat writes the Clara Danny stuff, for example,
right.
to tie it into the arc.
And I'd really like to know who wrote the exchange between the Doctor and Danny.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love that.
The high point.
Scene.
Let's get into that because I'm wondering if that gives us a little insight to his character, because the fact that he snapped and went off at the Doctor makes me crave more information on Danny now.
Yeah, was he honorably discharged?
I want to know if he was kicked out for insubordination.
Yeah.
Because apparently he can snap and act really immature and angry, which is a contrast to the very even-tempered Danny that we've seen so far. Even in the restaurant scenes where he was getting kind of upset, he still managed to keep his cool, either because he was maybe in a public place and so he didn't want to go off in a restaurant.
Yeah, mind you, the conditions under which he was placed into the TARDIS.
Exactly.
Well, I kind of felt that the Doctor represented whoever ordered him to go over that line. Because that's the key thing at the end with him and Clara standing in front of the window and we see the reflections and they're talking. I mean, that to me, that made me think that this happened to him and maybe that's why he left. Maybe it wasn't honorable discharge. There was an order he just did not feel comfortable with.
And now he's a math teacher.
Yeah.
Just like the Brigadier was.
Yeah, this is I think, a lot more interesting than what a lot of people have been comparing it to, which is Mickey's rivalry with the Doctor. You know, that was played for laughs most of the time. This actually had some new information and brought struggle of class against class into the picture. Enlisted versus officer. There was a lot going on there.
And I think they're going to both have to apologize later because the Doctor was understandably upset, not only because Clara had brought Danny into the TARDIS as an act of subterfuge, but also because she stole his invisibility watch in order to do it.
Yeah.
She went into the TARDIS, stole the watch, gave it to Danny, and then brought him in the TARDIS. So I can understand the Doctor having more than one reason to be angry and unfairly letting that load off onto Danny because he was there, and he just became the object of anger that really should have been directed at everybody in the room, really. Not only Danny for coming in without permission, but Clara for sneaking him in, and the Doctor for being so stupid as to allow precious technology to be stolen by his companion.
I just want to say that I do like the fact that they're bringing more into play that Time Lord is actually like a title and not the race, because I was always misunderstood coming from just watching the new stuff that I thought
class.
So I kind of like that with them this playing with the soldier versus the officer. It kind of pulls that more in, and it kind of brings that line in where they said, well, he's going to be he'll never make what did they say when they were in the Born, the two parents, or
he'll never make Time Lord,
right?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So this kind of brings that. I was thinking of that when him and Danny were having their little exchange, and that pulled it in. So I do like that they're fleshing this out for us as the newer, me coming from the newer audience, that we get to see this a little bit more.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're going to bring that parallel in again with Clara and the school and the Doctor and his boys' home and Danny and his boarding school. It seems like they were all kind of coming together, or at least they could at a certain point. I mean, we're only halfway through the series at this point.
Excuse me, we have to talk about The Tempest in light of the changes to the sixth form Shakespeare module, blah-de-blah.
Yes, sorry, of course.
I really enjoyed how the Doctor thought that Clara was dating the guy who looked like Doctor Number 11 and even talked like him at a certain point, talking about blah-de-blah. We need to talk about the thing's unfinishedness.
Yeah.
That was a very 11th Doctor thing.
Yeah, that was
to say.
Hilarious. Of course, they pushed the issue by dressing him up exactly the same.
Oh, that was perfect.
He was missing a fez.
Well, they weren't going to get ridiculous, were
He
they?
was missing the fez, but I
Bow
thought
tie.
Or Stetson.
they needed to give him the messy hair and the bow tie and the jacket because Capaldi's Doctor has such a hard time recognizing faces at this point. He needs clothing, like he needs a cue of a different sort. You know?
Oh, well, he's also so narcissistic that he would be predisposed to recognize himself, so...
Exactly. And also why Clara was so irritated with him in the very beginning is because he's so different than what he used to be. And it would make so much more sense. Oh, well, if she was in love with who I used to be, then no wonder she doesn't like me now. It was played for comedy, but it was also, even if it hadn't been played for comedy, I thought it was a really good moment of insight into the new Doctor's character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, listen, there's the bell. Off you go. Haven't you got shoplifting to go to?
I'm going to tell the headmaster.
Oh, yes, fine, well, cut along. You're running out of time.
For what?
Everything. Human beings have incredibly short lifespans. Frankly, you should all be in a permanent state of panic. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You're weird.
Yes, I am. What about you?
I'm a disruptive influence.
Good to meet you.
Speaking of parallels, I thought it was interesting that the Brigadier was a retired soldier who became a math teacher. And now in the new series, we have a retired soldier who's a math teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of callbacks to the past, just flying.
But not any that detract from the enjoyment of the episode.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The new fans don't need to see the old stuff in order to enjoy the episode.
Right,
I mean,
these are just little
it's great if they
nuggets
get it,
for us old fans, and it's additional enjoyment for us, but I don't think you need to know about the old to enjoy this particular
it's
set
nice
of
to know that
circumstances.
they're all, they're giving a little nod to the old stuff.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, but you don't necessarily need to know that Coal Hill School was where the first two companions
see, I didn't know
taught.
that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I
And
didn't
the
know
more
that.
you
I
know
figured
about
that's
it, the
where y'all were
cooler it
going,
gets,
yeah.
and you start kind of anticipating more.
Yeah.
If you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you.
What do we think of the fact that Clara hasn't seemed to figure out that lying to the people you care about the most inevitably backfires? Is it reinforcing the notion that the Doctor is now Space Dad? So they're writing her character to be just a little immature, maybe not having learned all of those life lessons? Because it was amazing to me how much she lies, not just in this episode, but in all the episodes we've seen so far in the series. She's constantly keeping things from the Doctor, and she's keeping things from Danny.
Yeah.
Maybe with the best of intentions,
And it
but
backfires every time.
Always
Well,
backfires.
she even said when, we can take it both this line that she says where she's like, I can't keep doing this. And it's when she was running. Does she really mean that she couldn't keep up with, living two lives? Or does she mean she can't keep up with the lies?
But at the end of that, she lies
So-
to herself.
Right.
She
which
says, yes, I
does.
can.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
So I think that's just, she's trying to keep this stuff separate.
Yeah.
And she just can't. I don't think she means to lie. I just think she's trying to keep her life separate. And then when she goes off to play with the Doctor, because he's her hobby. And, you usually don't include your hobby with your real life. I mean...
I think the Doctor is now, because he's doing the space dad thing, I think they're writing his character to be a little more territorial. Not only am I space dad, but this is my house.
Oh, God, you're right.
The TARDIS is now very much his domain.
It's kind of
It goes
funny.
along with the part-time companion thing.
Right.
The fact that he picks her up when he wants to.
Yeah.
He says, I'll see you when I see you. Of course, that kind of falls apart.
It's like
but
visiting rights.
I never asked you guys, how do you feel they did the snapping in this episode? I love when David Tennant did the snapping where the TARDIS doors open and close.
That was hilarious.
Then they allowed Claire to do it. And I forget which episode they started in. I didn't like that, but I thought it was really funny in this episode where he does it and then she does it and, close and then he does it again because it showed them tug-of-warring.
Yeah, I like that because...
I just liked it there.
I was getting tired of the snapping too, but when they brought it back in this episode for that effect, in order to make it comic, I liked it again.
Right.
I'm hoping they don't run it into the ground.
Right. I don't
it
like
can't
her
be
being able to do it, but I did like it in that scene because I thought it was kind of funny.
The companion's
in that
supposed
scene.
to have a key, but
Right.
she can open it from the inside.
It
by
can't be
snapping
a
her
continual
finger.
thing, but
did she open it Did she snap to open it in the first time they showed it? Her going in, or she only did
No,
it to
just
close
leaving.
it? Just to close.
Just when she was inside.
I guess it's also a little tip-off as to whether the TARDIS likes this particular companion or not,
Yeah.
Permit that
Well,
to
I
happen.
kind of thought that's why they did it because it was right after we had the big reveal with who she was, and then she shows back up and then she shuts it, and it was like, oh, the TARDIS likes her now. So I thought that was them, but I didn't. But I thought that only the Doctor could do that because you never see River do it.
What the Doctor can and can't do seems to be in flux. Because one of the things that I was thinking in this episode was, when the Blitzer arrived early, if the Doctor really does have full control over his TARDIS and can disappear and reappear 10 seconds later, why didn't he go somewhere else, finish his preparations,
and
then
go back.
travel back?
Yeah.
He seems to have complete pinpoint accuracy over the TARDIS now. It's a double-edged sword because in the early days, the trope was that the Doctor and his party had to be separated from the TARDIS somehow. Otherwise, they could just flee danger by hopping back into the TARDIS. But there was always something that happened. A girder would fall, or
the TARDIS was always
the tide would
buried
come in,
right,
or something. And so I don't know. Does the Doctor have that accuracy, or does he not, or does he just forget in the heat of the moment and decide to carry on as it is?
I mean, honestly,
I think that can be forgiven.
Yeah, honestly, it's a writing problem, but some people have suggested that it's merely not trusting himself that he's going to be able to get back in time. After all, the entire planet is at stake. The entire planet Earth is at stake in this.
Right.
So, I don't know, maybe that's the problem, that he doesn't trust himself with accuracy.
Or maybe because the Blitzer is kind of coming back through a mini vortex, he thinks it would interfere with the controls. I mean, that's...
Right.
They don't really touch on that, but it's we can theorize about it all we want.
I mean, that brings up something else. He doesn't allow himself do-overs. Say if the planet did blow up and then he went back and just tried again.
Right.
Well, that's not really part of the show, is it? That's not allowed.
No.
It's seemingly dispermitted by reason of fixed points in time. That's what they came up with to explain that.
I think it would be very interesting if, as some people have theorized, I think it was you who said it first, that Missy is the TARDIS. And the TARDIS lets the Doctor think that he's in control, but actually ends up putting him right where he needs to be. In the old days, we had the randomizer, or the TARDIS would malfunction, or the Doctor would be unable to control it, and so we don't know where we're going. The Doctor doesn't know where he's going. The companion doesn't know where they're going, which was an important thing because they got to materialize someplace and figure it out as they went along, and that was part of the adventure.
Yeah.
Now we have 45-minute self-contained episodes, and you don't really have time for that. But it's an interesting notion that now the TARDIS is controlling the Doctor's timeline and knows where he needs to be. Only sometimes it happens to go along with his wishes.
And it makes sense out of a lot, although, as to why the TARDIS would be collecting people. This episode does dash one of my theories about only cyborgs getting into heaven.
Right, now we had the policeman.
Yeah, and he was normal in every way as far as I could tell.
We still don't know whether they're being transported bodily or whether they're just getting their brains scanned and being transported into a Matrix-like device.
Well, wait a minute. Now, Half-Face Man wasn't transported. He really was killed, wasn't he?
But then again, because he was so much machine, he could have been repaired. I wonder if this is like the calm before the storm, because we've had a couple of light episodes now, and it seems like we're working to get the TARDIS fully staffed. Now that we've got all the pieces into place, I wonder if between now and the end of the season, it's going to start picking up and we're going to start answering some of those questions, you know.
Well, didn't they say that Claire is going to leave during the Christmas episode, or was that just rumors?
I've never seen that written down. There were people who said it was either...
So it was just... So it was never actually like...
They said it was either end of the season or end of Christmas episode, and I haven't seen anything in writing either way. I think it's just a theory. Just like the theory that the Nethersphere, we know what it's called now, just like the theory that the Nethersphere is an actual sphere.
Yeah, and it looked like a sphere on that chart in Robot of Sherwood.
Yeah, and the fact that the corridor curved, just like the corridor in the space station in 2001, the film. The corridor that we saw Missy walking down into had kind of an up curve to it.
Right, so they might be inside a giant sphere.
Suggests that they're inside a sphere, which I guess would kick the Matrix idea in the head. I was thinking it was a Matrix thing.
Right, software
where
type
the body does die. Like you said, the body can be vaporized, the guy can get damaged, but their minds are scanned the instant before they die, and a copy of them is downloaded to this place. More and more, it looks like it's a real physical place.
This had better be good.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Makes perfect sense to me.
How did I escape? I don't remember how I got away.
Well, I was coming to that. I'm afraid you really rather didn't.
Is Missy recruiting an army?
That's a good theory, because the 3 people that we've seen her recruit are all soldier-ish.
Well,
like
I was
you did
thinking...
the security guard, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking they're all people who have the Doctor to blame either directly or inadvertently for their deaths. So they might hold a grudge against him. The policeman, that's kind of...
Yeah, that's really indirect.
He doesn't even know the Doctor.
Yeah, very
indirect.
Or it could just be the background.
So I was thinking that, but then when the policeman ended up there, I thought, well, maybe it doesn't have to do directly with the Doctor causing their deaths. But as you say, soldiers, people who enforce the law, I think you may be on the right track there.
There might be something to that.
They may end up in a situation where the Doctor hates soldiers, but he's going to end up teaming up with Danny Pink and becoming a soldier again in order to fight the army that Missy is recruiting. Because I was thinking about the beginning of this episode where we see a montage of adventures. We at home are only seeing the highlight reel. We don't know how many more adventures the Doctor and Clara has had, and how many more folks Missy has had an opportunity to grab every time the Doctor and Clara go out there and something happens.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, she could have hundreds.
Yeah, so if the Nethersphere attacks at the end and there's 300 or 400 people...
It could not only be like a well-staffed space station, but it could have an army on board.
Well, they'll have a line. Doctor, don't you remember? He's that guy from that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to do a thing. I was a little bit irritated with the use of a thing several times in the beginning of the episode, but the fact that the Doctor uses a thing and turns it on Clara in an attempt to be mysterious, and then she uses the same thing in an attempt to be mysterious to Danny. I think the Doctor is taking something that Clara keeps saying and throwing it back at her to annoy her.
Yeah.
Because she was the one who started saying a thing, and now he started doing it. I've got to do a thing. I'm not telling you what it is. It's coming back to bite her.
Yeah, having it come from Dad, you know.
Especially,
still love that line.
He's being ironic.
Dad.
Space Dad.
Yeah.
And doesn't a dad always want to try to improve his kids?
Try to relate to them, too.
I'm waiting for him to say, "You're an English teacher. Where's your vocabulary?" She's going to say a thing one too many times, and he's going to end up chastising her for it.
It's like the Dr. McCoy line, why is it always a thing?
I like the fact that he is Space Dad now. When he said that his character wasn't really fleshed out until the 5th or 6th episode, I'm wondering if that's the line that Peter Capaldi was thinking about when he said that in the interview. Because Space Dad makes perfect sense now, especially since he had to give approval to the boyfriend. It explains why he's authoritarian, why he keeps talking down to people he thinks are unworthy of Clara's friendship or devotion. It's neat.
Yeah, I like Space Dad a lot better than like Peter Pan, because that's what Matt Smith was kind of going
Wow.
for.
Yeah.
He was very much like a Peter Pan type.
Yeah, and for the Doctor to become more patrician as he gets older kind of makes perfect sense. He's got the gray hair.
Yeah, and he modeled the face off of another dad that he encountered, didn't he?
Yeah, the dad in
Fires of Pompeii.
He did just save the whole world.
Yeah. Good start.
I didn't expect this to be as funny of an episode as it was. I was expecting a heavy, dark episode, and it wasn't necessarily the exact opposite. I mean, it wasn't Robot of Sherwood.
No, but you had the heavy moments.
Yeah.
Right? But for the most part, it was just a pretty light romp, you know?
Yeah.
But it was mostly about the characters. It was much more about the characters than about the monster.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense because Gareth Roberts has huge experience as a writer of soap operas. So he knows how to write characters and he knows how to write dialogue between characters that have motivations like the Doctor and Danny and Clara in that scene in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Where they got kind of snippy and they all had different reasons for saying what they said.
Fish people.
What do they like?
Fish and people. Come and see.
As an old school Who fan, I used to enjoy the mystery of the Doctor and his companions landing somewhere and not having any clue where they were or what was going on. I enjoyed the fact that they got to figure things out along the way. And that was because in the dialogue, as they're walking around making observations, there were opportunities for the writers to put information about the characters in. Like, for example, the Sixth Doctor and Perry wandering around on the planet Necros.
Yes.
She looks at a flower and starts talking about how she was studying botany. Those little moments that give us insight into the character could happen simply on a journey from A to B as they're walking from the TARDIS to a building.
The problem with that is that the episodes have to be condensed a lot these days, and you don't get little moments so much anymore.
And I'm wondering if that's why they're keeping the whole Dr. Lands picks up the companion.
Yeah.
Because if you have that established as the brackets of each episode, you no longer need to write those expository moments and fill that time. Because that's an easy way to kill time, is going on a walk from wherever the TARDIS happened to land to that great big building over there that looks interesting, so let's go exploring.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also the fact that the navigation circuits are working so much better now, you know, that he knows exactly where he is and when he is, and perhaps if Missy and the Nethersphere are the TARDIS, he might have to break those navigation circuits just to get control back. So
you might have to install a randomizer.
Randomizer, yeah. It's possible. Anything's possible.
Listen, I'm sorry, but there's going to be no trip today. I'm sorry. I've got to do a thing. It might take a while.
What thing?
Just a thing.
With Danny and Clara, a year has at least passed that they've been dating. I noticed that there was a line that I caught that like very beginning.
The parent-teacher conferences.
Right, where the Courtney Wood's parents' disruptive influence goes, well, last year you said that she was very disruptive. This year she's just disruptive. So that's, what was I think it was like.
That's an improvement.
Yeah. So that made me think like, wait, the first time we met Danny in the first episode, it was just like he had just started teaching.
Right.
So it was at least, and so they
and now
have
it's
at
least a year later.
Because I looked up, when we have, in the United States, we have our parent-teacher conferences usually the first month of school, and I looked up UK does it too, the first couple of weeks. So it's around the same, so at least a year.
That explains how familiar they are with each other now.
And then it's not so weird when she randomly says, I love him, you know, because I thought that was a little weird. I'm like, well, wait, if you take into account, because we've only seen him like, what, 5 or 6, like 3 episodes maybe?
Yeah,
so, but if it's a whole year.
When she said, because I love him, and he didn't like flinch or raise his eyebrows or anything like that. Yeah, I thought, oh, so they have been together a while.
Right.
That's when I thought about that line last year.
Right, because it
hadn't quite sunk in.
Yeah,
yet
it's really
with me.
subtle, and because I taught, I was able to catch it right away, and I think that's probably why. But not everybody's gonna have that, be able to, because it was just kind of like a throwaway line. It was just put in there casually.
But Doctor Who does so many things with throwaway lines now. You know, there were some folks online who were really talking about how the Doctor was cutting Clara down with these burning comments about her love life, about how he parked the TARDIS in her bedroom and said, well, I figured I'd put it here because if you brought your date home, you know, he wouldn't see it. Well, that doesn't necessarily imply that their date's not going to go anywhere. In the first episode, in Deep Breath, they tell him the bedroom is for sleeping.
Yeah, they do. That he's like, oh, just have a room for sleeping? Yeah.
That was a throwaway line that
yeah.
they reference later. And then in the same episode where he lands the TARDIS in the bedroom and she's looking in the mirror, she has that vanity with the 3 mirror panels. And he goes, why do you need 3 mirrors? Why don't you just turn your head? She doesn't answer him. She thinks it's, just too stupid to answer. And again, it was a throwaway line. But what happens? They bring it back. Later, he says, her face is so wide, she needs 3 mirrors.
Yeah.
Which means that he's made up his own answer to the question since she didn't answer it. And I just kind of think, wow, the writers really must assume that there are people out here like us who DVR it and watch it again and again and again to get all those little
Didn't
subtleties.
one of the little kids say something like that too, where her face was so wide? Doesn't Courtney tell her that her face is so wide that she can't concentrate on her paper?
Yeah.
Like she's telling Danny at the dinner.
Yeah.
So it's another reference.
But that's also probably Stephen Moffat exercising his co-writing capability, and in fact, as a script editor, and just peppering the scripts with those little callbacks to his own previous comments.
Well, we'll see what happens because this is the last one of the season where he is credited as co-writer.
Okay.
It's either Moffat or nothing from here on out.
Interesting.
Till the end of the season.
And as far as Courtney Woods, do you think she's going to stick around and become just like the first Doctor's companions, the little girl, along with the 2 teachers?
I think so. I think they've been working to this point. I think they've been working to get the 2 teachers and the student from Coal Hill School into the TARDIS again. There was a throwaway line, possibly, earlier about how the Doctor said, am I trying to remind myself of something?
Ah, interesting.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
With 2 teachers. Personally, I hope she loses her lunch again because there was a promotional photo from one of the next episodes with her in a spacesuit, and I love the slapstick comedy of throwing up in a spacesuit. It's very Monty Python to me.
Awful.
Yep. They can't have 6 more really dark episodes. They have to have at least one more comedy one.
Yeah.
And people puking in the TARDIS, I think, would be great comedy, especially since he's been a caretaker. Supposedly he knows how to mop and clean up now.
Yeah.
Hello, Earth. We have a terrible decision to make. An innocent life versus the future of all mankind.
What happens next?
I have absolutely no idea.
Clue.
Yeah, me too. I don't even have any theories.
Yeah.
I was wrong about this episode, so I kind of don't want to make any more predictions.
It's been a really fun ride so far this season, though.
Yeah, it has.
I think.
The next episode's the one they're all wearing spacesuits, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I really.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah,
People,
I like the spacesuits.
people either seem to really love this Doctor and this whole style that they've adopted, or they really, really hate it. And
that's always a good sign that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
As somebody who works in radio, if you're playing music on the radio and you get comments from people who say, I love this, and comments from people who say, I hate this, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You have to be irritating both ends of the spectrum equally.
Yes, and that's why we love Doctor Who, because it does not play the middle ground.
No.
It insists on being annoying and creative and irascible, and I hope it continues to do so forever.
And one thing that I like having return in this season, which I wasn't too sure if it was going to happen because everybody was talking about how dark and mysterious Capaldi's Doctor was going to be, going over the top.
Yeah.
Doctor Who has always been over the top, and I think it's great. They have, in the lighter episodes, they have baddies who look almost comical. I mean, this robot looked like a pear with a gun. Just by its very nature, it looked like somebody had poured a robot into a suit and forgot to say when.
that and the way it moved.
And the way it moved.
Was just, good old classic low-budget Doctor Who robot.
Yeah. And Danny doing a perfect vault over the robot.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That was gloriously over the top.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like you're watching one of the new Star Trek movies where people are trying to take sci-fi and modern physics and trying to say, oh, you can't just materialize onto a moving object and da-da-da-da-da-da. This is Doctor Who. We expect laws to be broken.
Yeah.
We expect things that wouldn't happen in reality to happen and work just fine in this universe. And the fact that they're going a little OTT with it, makes me really happy, especially as an old school Who fan, because some of the greatest episodes that I remember from my childhood were so over the top that you can't even think about them without chuckling. But they're great fun. And even years later, they're so much fun to watch. Not because the sets were great, not because the costumes and the stories were, really tight, but because it's just good storytelling. And the way the story is told, I think, is a lot of fun.
Time will tell.
All right. Thanks again, Louis and Alex. We'll see you next week.
NuWho Review was produced and hosted by Farrar Hutkins. The guests were Louis Dobbin and Alex Cannon. The opening theme music was performed by Louis Dobbin, and music performed by the Consortium of Genius. Email your questions or comments to whovoreview@gmail.com.